service. Mr. McCurk, thank you for your testimony, and you testified in your written statement that it is legitimate to question Iraq's independence given Iran's ongoing use of Iraqi airspace to resupply the Assad regime. Why is Iraq not doing more to stop the overflights to Assad? Is the Maliki government trying to use this issue as a means to try to coerce the U.S. into providing Maliki more arms and advanced weapons systems? Also, you testified in your statement that the State Department is watchful of Iranian efforts to use Iraq in order to circumvent international sanctions. To what extent has Iraq been successful in that? There are also fighters flocking into Syria to fight on what could be both sides, but really all sides of that conflict. There are reports that suggest that there are members of the Maliki government who are allowing some Iraqis to cross into Syria to join the fight. Why is the Iraqi government unwilling to stop these extremists from joining ranks with those fighting in Syria? And does the Maliki government's refusal to denounce Assad show that his ties with Iran run deep and that he does not want to upset the regime in Tehran? And lastly, at the start of the hearing, I handed you an envelope filled with letters and a video, and I'd like you to address the issues in the letters. Will the State Department reevaluate its decision to hand these Jewish artifacts over to the Iraqi government and instead work to facilitate the safe and rightful return of these important artifacts to their rightful owners or their descendants? Also, the plight of the residents of Camp Ashraf and Camp Liberty has been tragic, but the situation is getting worse. This year, we saw several deadly attacks, including the previously mentioned attack at Ashraf in September that left 52 dead and 7 hostages captured. What has the U.S. done to ensure that the government of Iraq lives up to its obligation to protect these residents? And why have we not insisted that the thousands of T-walls needed to protect the camp be installed? To date, I'm told that only 192 of the 17,500 T-walls have been installed. This is woefully inadequate, and more needs to be installed by the end of this year, and I respectfully request and would appreciate a regular progress report to our subcommittee on the installment of these protective T-walls. Thank you, sir.
Madam Chairman, first, I will make sure that your letter gets to the Secretary, and this is a daily topic of conversation with all the issues in Iraq, but let me kind of go through issue by issue. I'll start with the Jewish archives. And as you know, the archives are now on display at the National Archives. I went to see them last week. It is really a remarkable display, both about the Jewish heritage and the tragic history of this community in Iraq. We are also in a daily conversation with the Iraqi government and with the Jewish community here in Iraq. This morning, I was in communication with Rabbi Baker from the American Jewish Council. I've also been in regular conversation with Ambassador Faley, who's here representing the Iraqi government. As you know, we have a commitment under an agreement from 2003 to return the archives to Iraq next summer, by the end of next summer. We have paid for Iraqi archivists who are now here training with the National Archives to make sure that these archives are preserved and protected.
And we thank you, sir. I know other members will follow up, but my time is so limited, about Iran and Syria and Camp Ashraf.
I'll say just briefly on the archives. We're open to discussion about discussing the disposition of these archives, and I know the Ambassador agrees with that, and I'm happy to discuss that further. On the MEK, this is an issue that I am tracking every single day. On the tragic attack on September 1st, I went to Iraq shortly thereafter. We worked very hard to get the remaining survivors off of Camp Ashraf where they were not safe. I visited the residents and the survivors at Camp Liberty. We are determined to keep them as safe as possible. But
and the T-walls,
do you
think that we can do more?
Yes, thank you. I just spoke with
Ambassador
Beecroft this morning. The numbers, there's about 1,400 large T-walls now. We want to get as many T-walls in as possible. Some of this comes down to logistics. Some of it comes down to getting the right contractor. Some of it comes down to getting the right meeting in place for where the T-walls go. But there's no excuse. The T-walls need to move into the camp.
Thank you. And on Iran's influence and Iraq and Syria?
Iran has influence in Baghdad. We have influence in Baghdad. Other states in the region have tremendous influence in Baghdad. The issue of overflights, Madam Chairman, I'd really welcome the opportunity to come and brief you in a classified setting. I can go into some detail on the numbers and the flights. And
thank you. And my time is up, but we will do that, sir. Thank you. Mr. Deutsch is recognized.